They say there's an exception to every rule, and one of the biomechanical principles you need to understand if you want to know what muscles are working the most when you're doing an exercise is pay attention to whatever ones are being stretched the most, because the muscle being stretched the most generally is being recruited the most. Up until a point, though, there is an exception to that rule as well because of how muscles are designed. Now, muscle's capacity to produce force is going to be at its highest when it's at or near its mid-range, at its lowest in its shortest and longest position. So I'm going to use an incline curl to illustrate these principles in play. Now, the reason you would do that exercise probably is to target the long head of the bicep, because when the elbow drifts behind the body, the muscle being stretched the most is the long head of the bicep. Therefore, you're going to increase the demand on that muscle at the expense of all the others involved in the movement. Now, a lot of people would then take this information and say, okay, if the muscle being stretched the most is being recruited the most, and I really want to increase the demand on the long head, I'm going to want to use a very steep incline because that's going to put it in the most stretched position. However, if the shoulder's in a very hyperextended position, the long head will be incapacitated because it will be in too long of a position. Its capacity to produce force is going to be very limited in that position. So by default, other muscles responsible for producing force to perform that direction of effort are going to be recruited to a greater degree. So in this case, you're going to increase the demand on the short head of the bicep. So this is an example of how if you understand these principles, they should really shape the way you do what you do depending on what you want to accomplish from your efforts. As it relates to the incline curl, you want to target the long head of the bicep. Slight incline is all that is needed. If you use a very steep incline, by default, the short head is going to have to pick up the slack. If you like the information, share, click the fucking button at the bottom, subscribe to the channel. I'll keep bringing you the best information you're going to find as it relates to training to build muscle and get stronger.